Hi, it's Rick Hendershot here from Music Train. This week we're talking about guitars for new guitar players, starter guitars. The first one I've got here is a 3/4 size J and Z, or J and Z, depending where you're from. J and Z is what we say in Canada, but it's probably J and Z. And it's their 3/4 size classical guitar. The distinctive features of a classical guitar, as opposed to a more traditional guitar that you might be used to, is that it has nylon strings, not steel, and this particular kind of tuning head. Now, for younger new guitar players, I tend to recommend nylon strings, and the reason I recommend nylon strings is that they're easier on the fingers. If you know anything about guitar playing, you know that eventually you're going to develop calluses on your fingering hand, and that the process of developing those calluses takes time and it hurts your fingers at first. So in order to relieve you of some of that pain, you might try nylon strings, because nylon strings are easier on the fingers than steel strings. Playing it is pretty much the same. It sounds a little different, but you'll get used to it. One of the disadvantages of nylon strings is that they stretch. When you first put them on, 5 or 10 minutes later, they'll be out of tune. When I got this guitar 3 or 4 days ago from Amazon, it was $119. When I first got this one, I tuned it up, and then 10 minutes later it was out of tune. And the reason that happens is because nylon strings stretch. One of the things that some guitar players who use guitars like this do is, or some teachers do, is they pull the string like this to stretch it in advance. I'm not sure if that does any good, but it can't do any harm. Just make sure you don't pull it too hard if you do that. The way to overcome this problem of the string stretching is just to keep tuning it. Tune it whenever you pick it up. You should do that anyway. Most guitar players, or all guitar players, should tune their guitar every time they pick it up. Make sure it sounds right. Make sure it's in tune. Just keep tuning it, and eventually the strings will stabilize. It may take a few weeks, a couple weeks or whatever, but eventually they will stabilize. I have a guitar similar to this that I've had for at least 10 years. I don't play it much anymore, but when I do pick it up, it's almost always in tune. Just have to tweak it a little bit, just like I have to with any guitar, because the tuning is affected by the temperature in the room, humidity, and that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about the sound of this guitar, what it sounds like. It actually sounds pretty good for a relatively cheap guitar. I mean, not just relatively, this thing is cheap, $119. As you probably know, you can spend thousands of dollars for guitars. Or you can spend $119 and get a starter guitar like this. The other thing I'm not sure that I mentioned it, is that this is a 3/4 size guitar. It's not as big as a full-size guitar, and it's not as heavy. It's easier to handle. It's lighter. It's an ideal travel guitar for adults, and for kids who are smaller, it's perfect to start out on. Now let's get back to the sound. Sounds pretty good. Even the bass strings don't sound too bad. A lot of the cheaper guitars, the bass strings sound kind of dead, but this one's pretty good. go. That's the J and Z classical guitar, 3/4 size, $119 on Amazon. Have a look at it. And if you're looking for a starter guitar and you want something a little bit smaller and doesn't cost a whole lot of money, check it out. I'll leave a link down a little bit lower on this page underneath where I post this video. And I'll see you in the next video. We're going to talk about a steel string guitar for starter for new guitar players. It's just another starter. It's from Yamaha, another 3/4 size, and it's a little bit more money, but it's also a little bit higher quality. So check that one out too. I'll see you then. This is Rick Hendershot from Music Train. Take care.